This is what it takes. And so then Paul says, each time, what he got from God is that my grace is all you need. My power, God's power, works best in weakness. Mm-hmm. The more I can get you out the way, the better I can work. Mm-hmm. So Paul says, so now, now is huge. That's a huge statement right there. So now. Any of y'all got some so nows? Mm. So now. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So now. Mm-hmm. When I thought, oh yeah, I was sure. Mm-hmm. So now, you can just a myriad of things come behind. So now. So now he says, I am glad to boast about my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ can work through me. That's why I take pleasure in my weaknesses and in the insults, hardships, persecutions, and troubles that I suffer for Christ. That's not about sacrifice. The sacrifice is in the pleasure of my weaknesses. It's not in what I suffer for Christ. For when I'm weak, then I'm strong. Incredible encapsulation of life. All that life is. Right there.
Because when you're weak, you depend on people.
That's right. And I may have $1 million in the bank. I can be weak. If I identify and I stay humble before God, I realize it's not about material things. It's not about a name or a position or a title. It's about a broken spirit and contrite heart in which no wise will you despise nor turn away from. And God, help me stay there. Help me. That's why Jesus said that it's easier for a camel to fit through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter into heaven. Because we live in even then and today, we live in such a materialistic society. And so we think that people who have a lot, tangible things, material things, surely they don't have any problems.
We just don't know about what it is.
Surely everything is fine. She's a billionaire. They're multi-millionaire. Look at that house. We drive down through Bella Vista and we just come.
They got
and
it
we
made.
just think if I
just got it
have
made.
that life,
then I'll be all right.
Yeah, you gotta be careful about saying stuff like that too, because you don't know exactly what entails that life.
Baby. Let me
What
tell
that
you.
life, it comes with all the problems.
Yeah, there's some of them people, honey, would give up everything they have if they only knew how.
Yeah.
For a moment of peace, to be able to sleep at night.
Yeah, you're walking around saying you wish you had that. Don't say that. Don't say that.
So true. So all of this leads us up to a good lamp. What does it mean to have a good lamp? A good light on this path for life. You know the story of the 10 virgins, the bridegrooms? And they had went to meet the bride, or the bridesmaids rather, the 10 virgins. And they had went to wait on the bridegroom to come, and 5 of them ran out of oil, didn't have enough oil. And so they tried to get oil from the other 5, and they said, no, because we really don't know how long it's going to take him to get here, and so we want to be prepared and ready, so we just can't give you hours. And so that 5 went away to go get more oil and to come back, and when they returned, the bridegroom had came and went into the parlor and closed and locked the door, and they were not able to get in. What does that lamp represent for us? Whenever we're trying to live this life, we must have a light for the path. We have to have a light for this journey. And that light needs to be a light, y'all, that doesn't come from without, but it comes from within. All right. So let's read. Let's read. And what I want to do, we have about 25 minutes. I'd like to get through this, or at least through the first part of it. All right. Who wants to read? I'm down.
Those who were raised in highly moral families, that's what we are?
Mm-hmm.
Those who were raised in highly moral families who with a strict religious upbringing will usually recoil at step 4. They are so tired of judging themselves and the judgmentalism, that's right, judgmentalism towards others that comes with it, that they tend to resist any searching and fearless moral inventory. Perhaps it did not work for them in the past, but only made them more self-preoccupied, and in a negative way besides. Analysis is perilous. Analysis is perilous.
Analysis.
Analysis is paralysis.
And now, what do y'all think that means?
Analysis is paralysis.
To analyze is
crippling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Analysis
To
is,
think too deeply will literally paralyze us. It's among somebody. We know that to be true, right? To have to think over and over every decision, every step, just da-da-da-da-da, you can become paralyzed in analysis.
analysis paralysis is surely true for many people. In fact, I am convinced that some people are driven to addictions to quiet their constant inner critic. It only gives them even another thing to hate themselves for. What a vicious cycle, and honestly, not an uncommon one. The internationalized forces of a demanding parent.
The internalized.
Excuse me, the internalized. I'm sorry, I can't really see that one. The internalized voices of a demanding parent, a rigid culture, or a finger-waving church persists long after the parent is gone. We move to another country. We leave the church. We are now our own problem. We are now our own problem. That, in fact, is the final value of the moral inventory. Moral scrutiny is not to discover how good or how bad I am and regain some moral high ground, but it is to begin some honest shadow boxing, which is at the heart of all spiritual awakening. Yes, the truth will set you free, as Jesus says, John 8:32. But first, it tends to make you miserable. The medieval spiritual writer called it compunction. The necessary sadness and humiliation that comes from seeing one's own failures and weaknesses.
Now, if we just take that part right there and we back it up into that first part here that he's writing. If you came out of a system or a culture that had demanding parents, a rigid culture, a finger-waving church, these types of places, then this searching and fearless moral inventory is not something you even care about talking about. Because you're already experiencing the paralysis that comes along with analysis. You know, you already felt humiliated.
Scrutiny all your life.
All your life. You've been scrutinized all your life. And for those of us who are saying gender loving,
we've been there.
It multiplies several times over to carry that truth of reality in your personhood and love God and do church.
Too much.
We need a peel. Okay? We just need a peel. But this compunction, the necessary sadness and humiliation that comes from seeing one's own failures and weaknesses is not something that we embrace. We just don't want to embrace that. And so hold whole literary sections have been created called self-help.
Mm-hmm.
To help people out of that place. To help us out of this place of failure and weaknesses. All right. Go ahead, Shell.
Without confidence in a greater love, without confidence in a greater love, none of us will have the courage to go inside, nor should we. It merely becomes silly scrupulosity. 2 Timothy 3:6, and not any mature development of conscience or social awareness.
There is the 12 steps, I've said this before, maybe not to all of you all, but I believe whenever when we write the third testament, the next testament, the newest testament, or the newer testament, when we write it, the 12 steps should be in there. Because I believe they're God-breathed. They are raw. And that third step is so necessary to come to a place of turning your will and life over to the care of God as you understand Him. Without that, you can't do this. Because you get stuck in all of that other baggage that we all already have anyway. But if I'm able to turn my will and life over to a God of my true understanding, then I pray that God will be a God of greater love. That will be a God, as Paul found, that my grace is sufficient. That is a God of grace and a God of mercy and a God of love that is not holding you to some political religious standard, but is holding you to relationship with Him. A relationship that is full of ups and downs, ins and outs, good days and bad days, your junk and His slowfulness. All of that is in that relationship. And if you can trust that relationship, then a fearless moral inventory becomes exciting. And it's to be embraced instead of pushed against. All right?
Yeah.
All right, we're people.
Yes,
Somebody else want to read?
People only come to a deeper consciousness by intentional struggles with contradictions, conflicts, inconsistencies, and inner confusions. And what the biblical translation calls sin or moral failure.
Okay. Now, you circle that, underline that, just go and put that in your pocketbook. Okay? People only come to deeper consciousness. Last week we talked about awareness. We talked about coming to a place of awareness or consciousness where I become aware. You know, watching this political season, I am clear that there are people who are just absolutely unconscious. They are not aware. And we hear them. Why would that idiot say some of the stuff he says only because he's unconscious? So we cannot even fault him. He's just unconscious. You wouldn't have said that if you were conscious. You know you don't say everything you think.
Well,
my mama told me, she said, think twice before you speak once. As a little boy, she would tell me that. And to this day, you all, I do it. Very rarely do I have a slip of the tongue, that I say something that I don't mean. Very rarely do I do that. And you better believe 95% of what I want to say now come on. Is it true with you? You know why? Because you're conscious. You're aware. You're not walking around here asleep.
Pray for me.
But you're present. Now you may tell yourself driving down the road or looking in the mirror. You may have a party going on in your head. But you know that stuff is just not, it's not helpful for me to say that out my mouth. I need to hold that. Because I am conscious. Sometimes I hear parents talking to their children and they're so unconscious about what they are putting in that child and what they're shaping in that child. Why are so many black young guys so angry? Because they tired-handed mothers put so much negativity in them. You look just like your daddy. Bring your nappy-head self on in here. You're so hard-headed. Can't nobody tell you nothing. Now, if I said that to you as a grown and as an adult, oh honey, you would wear up. You're offended, you're angry, you're ready to fight. But for that little boy, he can't say nothing to you back. But he's just as angry as you would have been if somebody said it to you. And so when he becomes a young man and a man, all that pent-up anger is there.
You have a sociopath.
You have a sociopath.
Can I share something?
Mm-hmm.
My sister, you saw my sister and my nephew. She has issues. She don't treat that boy right. And they were at the house with us, and the parents said, Mom, can he come stay with us? I don't like how she's talking to him. I said, yeah, I know. I feel it. I don't like it either. She's embarrassing him a lot. She has nothing nice to say to the boy. And he's there for her, regardless.
Oh, yes. People only come to deeper consciousness by intentional struggles with, now listen to this, with contradictions, with conflicts, with inconsistencies, interconfusions. Reminds me of messy spirituality. And what the biblical tradition calls sin or moral failure. So if you're going to smoke crack, smoke it up in here.
Yeah, you always say that.
If you still going to hold on up in here. We're not looking for you to be pure and perfect. This is what we need. We need contradictions. We need to struggle with conflict and inconsistencies and inner confusions. Should I take this or should I? I know I can get out of the store at this self-help, this self-checkout line with this. Should I take it or should I? Process. Is God going to show up? Is God not? Is it going to work out? Is it not going to work out? Should you know, the fruit on the tree in the Garden of Eden, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, we were never designed for that knowledge. We weren't designed for that. We weren't designed to make a choice. That's why God put them in the garden where everything was there. And if you don't eat of this tree, then you're not put in a position to where you have to choose. Because if we get honest, the hard part is the choice. It's not the doing, it's the choice.
God knows it.
Am I going to sleep with it? Am I going to sleep with it? Am I going to go over there? Am I going to do it? And we will be tormented with the choice. The choice alone
It's not just the action.
torments us. Just the choice.
Choice melts the beat.
Paul says, "Oh, wretched man that I am, who shall save me from this body of destruction? Thanks be unto God. He's made a way for me." But these contradictions and even what we would call sin and moral failures are part of the process. I was talking to a friend of mine, or talking to a young man on today, was talking about promiscuity, being promiscuous. And you have people today who just truly do believe that it's just fine. It's fine for me. You know? Well, it's not to argue with them against their promiscuity or their promiscuous lifestyle, but it is to say to them that for me, at 45, I've been there too. But trust me, there'll be another season in your life. And just pray that you live through this and get to that, to be able to look back on this and see the lessons that come out of all of that. But in the meantime, get up off yourself, honey. It's part of the process.
I was told I was fornicating today.
What?
I was told I was fornicating.
Let's tell the truth.
I'm married right now. I was fornicating.
Oh my gosh.
My mama told me, she said, I told her, I said, I think I'm gonna marry Tony. She said, well, you need to do something and stop living in sin. She told me. So, well, you need to do something and stop living in sin.
Gave you something to chew on.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, they gave me something. Gave me something. I'm gonna chew on this one for a minute. It didn't stop.
So this is just a very powerful statement. A very, very powerful statement. That people only come to deeper consciousness. Y'all, it's been your failure in the places where you fail is what got you to where you are today. What you know about God today didn't come while you were
Because it was peaches and cream. Huh?
Right. And then on the strawberries and cream. No, it came in them deep valley times.
Yes, it did.
It came when your ass was on the ground dragging.
Came in my bottom.
We fall down, but we get up, saying whatever the song said. We do fall down, and eventually we get up. We just don't get up the same.
Thank you, God.
Not ever do we get up the same. Not ever do we get up the same. All right, go ahead, sir.
Starting with Adam and Eve, there seems to be a necessary transgression that sets the whole human story into motion. In Paul's brilliant expose on spiritual function of law, his letter to the Romans, he actually says that the law was given to multiply the opportunities of failing. Now deal with that one.
Deal with it.
And then he adds, so that grace can even be greater. God actually relished the vacuum, which God knows God's alone. God actually relishes the vacuum, right? Is relish, right? Okay. Relishes. God actually relishes the vacuum, which God knows God alone can fill. Saint Teresa of called this her little way, which is nothing other than the gospel itself. Whosoever is a little one, let him come to me. Proverbs 9:4 became her mantra and her message.
All right, I want to back up for just a second. In Paul's brilliant expose on the spiritual function of the law, his letter to the Romans, he actually says that the law was given to multiply the opportunities of failing. And so in Galatians, Paul says in Galatians 3:19, he says, why then was the law given? It was given alongside the promise to show people their sins. But the law was designed to last only until the coming of the child who was promised. God gave his law through angels to Moses, who was the mediator between God and the people. Now a mediator is helpful if more than one party must reach an agreement. But God, who is one, did not use a mediator when he gave his promise to Adam. Is there a conflict then between God's law and God's promises? Absolutely not. If the law could give us new life, we could be made right with God by obeying it. But the scriptures declare that we all are prisoners of sin. So we receive God's promise of freedom only by believing in Jesus Christ. The law lets us know we are incapable of getting in by ourselves because we transgress the law daily. So instead of giving people a laundry list of do's and don'ts, people need to know the unconditional love and grace of Jesus Christ. That's what we must spend our time on. Not who's sleeping with who did this, who didn't do that. That does not serve us. And the only way that it is beneficial or has some bearing is in community. And that's something else. In community. Because we can't just be anything in community. There has to be some buffers. But we're not talking about community here. We're talking about our own personal life. Because if I can get this, then I can function in community. But if I ain't got this, I am incapable of functioning healthily within community. And that's why so many are so dysfunctional in community. So dysfunctional in community. Because they have not found the wholeness within their own self. Inward discovery, personal recovery, affectionate outreach.
I have a question. Do you think God came into that understanding after giving the law? Because why did he wait so long to give Christ? You see what I'm saying?
Why did it take so long for Christ to come? Why didn't he just give Christ right out?
If he knew that the law, or was he waiting for us to realize that we could not?
No, because that revelation doesn't just come. You know, and it didn't come. It became part of the mystery that Paul speaks of, the mystery of the faith, is that level of revelation. Because even when Paul is writing Galatians, or writing to the church at Galatia, he also is condemning the other apostles.
Right,
so Peter and them are still around at the same time. Mm-hmm. And so Paul condemns them because they're so adamant about people sticking to the law and living up under the law. Even though in this particular case, in Paul's confrontation with Peter, that's found here in Galatians, he lets Peter have it. Mm-hmm. Because Peter had a clear understanding of this. Peter got it. Peter knew that it wasn't about the law. And so whenever he was with the Gentiles, he was eating bacon and ham.
Mm-hmm. And when he got with the Jews,
and some shrimp. Cocktails. But whenever the other Jews showed up, came back around, he wanted to act like he ain't never had no ham. Mm-hmm. He didn't eat no shrimp. And Paul calls him out. No, don't do that. No, you're not going to do that. You're going to do that. You're not going to take this gospel and then attach it back to something that binds people instead of liberating and freeing them. But the church, religion cannot stand in a pool of a bunch of free people. It won't work. Religion will not work amongst the free.
Who did he call out? I'm sorry.
He called Peter out for
Okay.
being fake, basically.
Basically, a hypocrite. Religion will not work amongst free people because they're free.
So no order is chaotic. That's what it is.
Say it again.
No order is chaotic.
No order is chaotic.
If you are free in yourself, there's no order in that. Does that make sense? And having no sense of order becomes chaotic. That's why.
Yes,
I'm saying
and that
order.
chaos
Yes.
is organized chaos.
Yes.
It's necessary chaos. But when I say that religion will not work amongst free people, what am I meaning? What is that? What am I meaning by that?
So I'm not bound by whatever the human or religious people say is
Right.
supposed to be a Christian. I'm not
Right.
bound by that.
I'm not bound by
I'm
that.
not
So
bound.
so all of your rules,
Right.
The
your
door on my
covenant on the
head
wall,
and all
you know,
that.
it don't fit me no more.
I got to have a dress on, and I got to do this.
No, I'm free. Praise the Lord, I'm free. I refuse to be bound by all of that anymore. I'm not, no, But now when we talk about religion, we're not talking about faith. We're not talking about relationship. We're not talking about the family of God community. We're talking about religiosity.
Right.
Or the law.
All of that law stuff.
Well, why did God give it if
Because he gave it, Paul says in Galatians,
Right.
Paul says it was given so that we would see our need for him.
we never really get there?
Huh?
We never really got there.
Yeah, we have. We're sitting here talking about it right now, so we got it. And we're not the only ones. I mean, there's many got there. Paul got there. Paul got that revelation. So even in the first century church, the revelation was being received. It was being gotten. It was being, but then there was so much other stuff that came along, that rose up. He calls the law God's taskmaster, or his schoolmaster, his principal. The law was sent so that it would keep the children of Israel within a certain boundary, so they didn't get too far over there, But also, it was broad enough or complicated enough, detailed enough, impossible enough to where they would learn or hope they would find out they cannot keep this. I can't live up under this. I can't live up under this. This is too confining. This is too much.
They tried, huh?
And so then Jesus comes and